been upgraded to silver because of doping violations. So again, kind of like everybody else said, these are warnings, like this is my own experiences, this is how I learn, this is how I teach. It's constantly evolving. You guys know as coaches, you're constantly evolving as a coach, constantly learning from your athletes. And so I'm about 4 years into my first full-time coaching. I volunteer coached with TJ, I volunteer coached with several coaches. And so I'm still evolving as a coach, but when we look at like the linear idea of the rotational throw, this is how I have come to understand it. And there are going to be, you know, some key differences, but you'll hear a lot of the same things, really. A lot of the same goals with direction of the ball, creating stretch. All those things are very similar. And we use a lot of the same drills. TJ did discus this morning, and I'm like, well, there goes a lot of my drills because they are very similar. This was me. Oh, there's no volume, sorry. I don't know any volume. This was my PR. I'm grateful it got caught on video. I'm actually glad you can't hear my screen because it's very girly. But that was my first time over 20 meters. They announced that I had lost to Michelle Carter 2 weeks prior to this meet. And I came out, and the story behind this is that I felt awful, and somehow my technique took over and allowed me to have the best throw of my life. When I started in high school, obviously as a glider, I went to junior camps and was a glider, did it all through college. My college coach actually introduced me to half turns, or 180s, or wheels, whatever you want to call them. I call them half turns, and South Africans. Now, he did this as a glider to get my right foot moving. I was having a hard, I'm not gonna, if you know, my college coach was Robert Weir. He's a large British man with a very deep voice. And I cannot tell you how many times in my career I heard, turn the right foot, okay? That's all I heard. That's where I struggled with the glide. And so he had me start doing these drills in practice to help me work my right foot. And I think I was a junior at the time. And so I'm doing these drills, and he just kind of gets this look on his face. He's like, we may have something here. And so I would do South Africans to warm up, and people would be like, what's going on there? But then I'd glide. So people were really confused. And so after about a couple weeks of this, he's like, I want you to go rotate. Okay, you want me to go rotate? Yeah. Well, what do you want me to, like, how do I do this? No, just go do it. Okay. Whatever you say, coach. So I spent probably 2 hours out at the track. He wasn't there, by the way. He just wanted me to go do this. And I spent 2 hours at the track just trying to rotate. It made no sense to me. I was told by Ramona Pagel as a junior athlete, I don't understand how you're throwing discus very far, you can't rotate. So rotation for me was very difficult, apparently. And so I really had to kind of find the right technique for me, and that's where this linear approach comes in. Go ahead. So why do I think linear? I like that it directs these forces down one path, right? If you think about the glide, why do you do it? Because a lot of our athletes are not super coordinated in the sense that there's a lot of like energy loss, right? They're moving, you know, as they're gliding, they're opening, or they're doing these things that is losing this force that should be directed into the shot put. So that was, for me, what made a lot more sense when I moved to this type of technique. It's this more efficient path. That ball is going out of the back. It really is going kind of this straight line with a teeny tiny little movement in the middle, okay? And then hopefully you've got this less force loss as you do this. Who's using this? A lot of people. Ryan Krauser, I would say, has a very linear technique. It's very similar to discus. TJ talked a lot about discus today. It was very similar to what I took to learn this approach to the rotation. So You know, Valerie Allman, obviously very accomplished. Go ahead and hit the video. It is slow-mo. Watch her path. It's, besides the discus, right? Her path is very, very straight down the middle. There's not a lot of jumping. There's not a lot of extra movement. It's very straight, very low. That's how I learned to do the glide, or do the rotation. The next person, Chase Ely, she actually was coached by Ryan, and when she changed coaches, I immediately was like, oh, she is more linear. Because Ryan did have that background of more of a little bit of that kind of hop to the middle, this a little bit more circular rotation out of the back. But her now, if you watch the video, she's much more on that left side, really everything down that line. So there's a lot of you, I didn't have Ryan Krauser's permission, so I didn't use his video. But he's another one. If you watch his movement, a lot of his hit from the back, everything's on that left side of the ring, right side. You're right, they're left. I'll go over that in a second. These are my ring references as Sarah used. I use the clock as my reference, just because I don't like saying 180s and I always get confused. So the back of the ring is that 12 o'clock with the toe board being 6. And then when I talk about being on the right sector line, I am looking at it. It is my right side. When the athlete delivers, it's their right side. So just kind of, so we're not confused. Sorry, there's a lot of words on this, but some of those key elements, okay? For me, the biggest key element is a weight shift in the back. Moving that weight, okay, from here, and we talked a little bit about this with Sarah, is, you know, these athletes kind of turning back on themselves, right? The biggest thing is that center mass actually shifting, okay? Their knee opening up, their body weight shifting down on this left leg. That shin angle they kind of briefly touched on, this is really important for that linear technique, okay? That was said multiple times during my practices. We got to get a better shin angle. We got to get down more on that left leg, and then down that right sector line, okay? So you don't have that over rotation. It is really hard if you get the right position to over rotate, which is great. Made it easy, okay? Driving to the middle and getting that foot down quickly. If you have a little bit more of that rotational start, that's kind of where Sarah and I were very different. And actually, when I started working with TJ, we had some issues because I learned differently, and he kept wanting me to do this out of the back, and I'm like, I can't do that. That's not how I learned, and that's not how my body was efficient. So for me, it's that right foot staying low, getting down quickly. Okay. There's not a lot of air time, and I want to get back into that double support really, really fast. Again, that center of mass staying down that midline, right, of the ring, not crossing one way or staying really far to the right either. We want to make sure we're just staying right down that midline. Big circle, small circle. You'll see my beautiful drawing of that here in a second. And then more time in double support. Low right foot sweep. And it is going to be a little closer. Sarah talked about hers being a big leg sweep. Mine, because of the force I was trying to create out of the back and how like dynamic and big drop I would get, I was a little bit more low and tight so that I got that right foot down a lot quicker in the middle, hopefully. That was the goal. And then this bow and arrow, I preach this. I teach my gliders and my rotators the exact same way to throw the stand throw. And we'll talk about this, but the bow and arrow is just that idea of that stretch here, that left arm. If you're pulling an arrow back, right, you're getting that tension. Is really important as they learn the glide or the rotation. This is, again, somewhere that I don't really differ in how I teach because I want them to learn to finish like a glider. And then chase like a glider. I think that, you know, a lot of times, one of the biggest compliments I got early on as a rotator was, oh, you really finish like a glider. So I think that was a big advantage. And there's a ton of other people that started out as gliders, right? Myself, I was a glider. Chase Ely did the exact same thing I did. She did glide all the way through high school, all the way through college, her first year out. went to a new coach, and that's when she changed. Ryan Krauser also started out as a really good glider. So I think there's some very big advantages to having that background.
Can you demonstrate your chase as a glider versus maybe something that's different than that? What you mean by that?
Yes and no. If you think about when you're, as a discus thrower, right, your reach really comes here, but your body doesn't really move, right? And I've seen a lot of elite throwers kind of stay here as they finish. That's kind of what I'm talking about, is that rotational finish. But I want to think that I'm going to punch, and I know we're all trying to do this, but for me it just made more sense, is as you glide, you have that momentum going forward, and you really can reach out here because there's not as much rotational force. What keeps you in is that strong block, right? That strong block and that chase. Does that make sense? I think, I'm trying to think of, Kovacs would be one I would consider has a little bit more of that round finish. I'm trying to get that bow and arrow so that my path that I've created, that's where the shot's going, versus letting that shoulder kind of come out and the hand come out and punching around this way. I want to have just everything going straight into that shot. All right, so like TJ, I'm going to start out of the back because I don't teach straight out of the back. I actually do teach the other way. But I think this is the difference between the two techniques we're talking about, is this kind of out of the back position. So we're getting that belly button to move to the left, right? And this is actually a great picture because unintentionally, he lined up right on that line for me, okay? And you can see this is just a knee drop drill, and it's just practicing moving the center line out and having a target for their knee to go to. So you can see his belly button's here, and as he moves, it shifts across that line. My kids get really sick of doing these because it's just, kind of monotonous, but you have to make sure that you get that square foot to turn. Like I'm a little bit more of a stack starter. I don't like the big wrap because I think it's hard to come out of. So I'm a little bit more, you're gonna wrap, but you're gonna wrap over your body, okay, versus shifting back and forth, okay? But all it is you're just here, you're turning the hip and dropping your knee to get consistent being over that left leg out of the back. I tell my kids almost every day, you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable because this is not a comfortable position, okay?
It sucks.
But especially when you're demonstrating, it's worse for the coaches, all right? Because really as a thrower, you're not in it very long if you're doing it right. So you've got to get that comfortable being uncomfortable, pushing that knee out and down, okay? Out and down. And then another big thing I like to tell my kids is to keep your left arm or your left elbow inside your left leg, okay? That hopefully, if done right, keeps you from opening that shoulder up. So you can do this all day, but if you're over here, you're already going to be at a disadvantage, right? You're going to lose that power. So we're keeping that left arm inside the left knee as we move through that position, okay? That's just kind of a recount. So as you get to this uncomfortable position, right? We're dropping our knee, we're opening up. This is, again, maybe where it differs a little bit from discus. TJ talked a little bit about staying down on that right, okay? I want to create this position, but I am going to push off my right leg a little bit, okay, to get it going. It is that counter so you don't fall on your face, right? This is a big amount of stretch. It's a big drop. So if you don't have your foot quick and early, okay, you're either one, going to over-rotate or fall on your face, which I did do a lot. So we want to make sure that that knee dropping and that right foot is low, again, low, and it's going to cut in a little bit quicker than maybe like that rotational start. And then again, we want to stop that left foot. I wish I put this video in here, but Christian Che, I think is how you say his name. I actually use his technique for showing my kids out of the back because his foot just, boom, right there, right down the right sector line, and then he sweeps through. Never really over-rotates, just right down that line, and that's where we want that left foot to hit before we start attacking to the middle. If it goes any further, you're usually open or you're falling, kind of diving in. I was told I'd join the diving team a lot when I was first starting, so. A couple of drills we use. Again, this knee to the box just kind of, you just click it, it should go. All we're doing is feeling that position, turning. I tell the kids it's like there's a nail on the inside of your big toe, and that's all you can pivot around. I don't want to see the foot kind of roll back and forth. I want their weight a little bit kind of down and on the inside of that big toe. And that's where their weight's going to stay. And then this one I came up with later. I don't know who I stole it from, but I came up with this one later. Wall kicks I got from my coach that taught me how to rotate. This was how I learned to come out of the back. I spent hours on the wall just learning that position. One of the things I want you to think about, because can anybody see a problem with this drill that maybe might happen right away? Anybody? Anybody? Oh, maybe just me. Okay. The first problem I see when these kids start to do this is they throw this, or their shoulder goes back, right? What I like to tell my kids is you're racing your right foot and your left arm to the wall. So the idea is you're going to open, you're going to push out. That's why we have a really rough wall. And there's a med ball there, so it's a little softer to kick. I just kick the crap out of my foot. One, you have to kick with the inside. And two, you're racing this arm and this right leg. So this right leg becomes and learns to be quick around the back versus kind of staying on the ground, and you get that tense to open up. Any questions on those two? Those are my two favorite out of the back. This is all, we do other things, but for time, those are my two. So now you're talking about that drive to the middle. Very similar to everybody else that spoke today, okay? Very similar. We're talking about that left arm stopping. I had this argument with my kid. Well, Krauser does this. Krauser's also 6 foot, 7? Okay? I'm always gonna cue you to overcorrect it. It may drift a little. That's gonna be all, dependent on the athlete. But if this is my center line, I want you to stop here and then work under that, okay? For me, it's not a hop, it's a drive down, okay? If you watch the videos, the hips should not change level. Once you drop, everything's low, you're loading that way versus kind of coming up. What I tell my kids is when I say don't hop, my thought, and I didn't learn this way, but my thought is if I'm hopping, okay, Sarah's a smaller thrower than I was, okay? But when I hop and I hit, and I'm trying to load that right, my natural reaction is just to collapse on my leg. I can't hold that position and turn at the same time. But if I keep it low and I keep my foot low, okay, it's a little bit easier to keep my heel up this long than to be up here. So I'm trying to actually get them to keep it low, keep the heel down, but still be on their toe. Does that make sense? Sorry, I got a little bit offhand. Again, left arm up. Obviously, either way, you're going to have an extreme of how it changes how you throw the shot put. So we want that left arm even with that shoulder level as we drive, and we're working under with that good posture to the middle, okay? We'll cover it a little bit in the glide, but if you think about, you hit that standing throw position like this, okay? As a rotator, as a glider, doesn't matter. What's your body first need to do to get into good throwing position? Stand up. That movement alone is going to shift your weight. So we always want to make sure we maintain that posture over that right quad and keep it moving through the middle. My ideal foot position is your right foot is landing between that 3 and 4 o'clock time. Okay? Here's a recent one of Krauser, right at 3. Again, if you get that over rotation, your whole posture is gonna crash. You're gonna be open. You're gonna have a hard time moving through that middle position. This continually turning after landing, it's really hard to do anything in single support. Sarah said this earlier. It's really hard. But if your heel's up, it will continue to move. I've taken half tennis balls and put them on the back of someone's shoes just so they feel that their heel's up. Think about when you're squatting and you're having trouble with your posture and you put your heels up. Same kind of thing. Left arm up and away from the body. Again, that arm, the kids never know what to do with it, right? They never know, do I tuck it in? Now, again, depends on your body type, depends on your event, what you're doing. But I ideally like to teach that arm is out and level as I move through, okay? If you think about an Adam Nelson, who had the ultimate rewrap, right? The ultimate just, nobody else can do that. But what you can learn, and the easiest thing is just to not move it, right? It's easier said than done, but that's the goal, is that it just sits there. It's passive, like Sarah said. So the biggest thing about this drive in the middle is a lot of bad things can happen in that transition. So just want to make sure we're working the things that posture, passive left, and just keep moving, keep that foot low, and hopefully you can maintain that in the middle. My beautiful artwork. Thank you. So that path of the ball should be that big circle, little circle. We're getting to that middle, trying to drive. Our biggest issue was that right foot, because he wanted me to go up, and I'm like, no, I'm used to just slamming it into the ground. As a glider, I learned, I'm sure all of you have coached this, okay? Squish the bug, right? Everybody coach that? Yeah. It wasn't until I went to a junior Olympic camp and Ramona Pagel told me to turn like I'm trying to break the cement that it made sense to me, turn the bug. Because you can smash a bug like this, right? It's very gentle. But the idea is you have to be pushing into the ground. And so I want to think about that foot pushing in versus coming up and landing. Again, this is just me. Okay, that's how I learn. Again, we're keeping that arm down the midline, away from the body, left arm reaching to the front, hips stay level, left foot down quickly. One of the cues I like, I never liked squeeze the knees because as a glider, there was no rotation, right? There was none of that. So squeeze the knees as a discus thrower, because the orbit's a little bit longer, made sense. The path could go a little bit more around. As a linear rotator, I thought I'm going to kick my right heel with my left toe. Okay? So I'm here. I'm there versus kind of that squeeze the knees where the left foot is going to come up and around. I just like to think kick through. That's going to give me a nice straight line moving forward. And hopefully, because it is a quicker path, the shoulders stay back, the chest stays up. Less can happen than while that left foot's drifting all the way around. Okay? So here's a couple of my favorite drills. Again, you've already seen these today. They're not going to be new. They're all named differently from all three of us, but this is what I name them. I like degrees and numbers versus 180s and whirls and I don't know. So I call them 90-degree step throughs. Again, that goal, there's the same thing we're talking about with that lineup. Right here. Not here. We're not facing the ring like this. We're overcompensating. Some of my kids, because they're so bad at throwing their left, I actually make them start here. So they have to reach into that position before they can even start. Luis is pretty good. He drops his arm in the middle. We're working on that. But you can even do pause drills with this. We've done the step. Pause, check your position, and then go. There's lots of variations of all these different drills that we're doing today. Another one is the next one, is this 90 pause. So you are starting in the back, you're getting to that 90 position. It's a little lackadaisical on this one. I would have liked him to shift a little more, but we'll talk about that later. Again, it's a little bit, sometimes I'll just have him tap, but just moving down that line. All of these are reinforcing is that straight line through the middle. Reaching to the front. He's really bad about this, so we've been working on that a lot, I think. The next one is actually one of my favorite drills. I don't know where I learned this. I feel like I've been. Sarah? Is this one of yours?
Someone taught it to me.
Okay. But partner pull. So now you're not relying on your own self to move through the ring. You're actually feeling the forces, which if you set up the back correctly, it should feel like someone's pulling you because you've created this force out of the back that is shooting you through the ring. Okay, so your partner, all they're doing is, and we'll have them throw like this, okay? We'll actually have them use a shot with this. But your partner, you know, you kind of whine and they just pull you right down that midline. Right down that midline. Actually, that was in a pretty good position. I personally, that's one of my favorites. I did not have this as an athlete. I would have liked this one because it just reinforces that direction and how you should feel as you drive to the middle. The release, again, I don't change my approach to the stand throw power position between the two. I just don't. I think there's a lot of benefits to learning to really reach over versus kind of that around finish. Bow and arrow we'll talk about when we do one of the drills. Left shoulder is a hinge. I don't know if this term I had to like clarify to my kids because a lot of kids I'm like, okay, now start your left, turn your right. Right? You see this? They're leading with their shoulder. I need that shoulder to be a hinge, right? I'm right here versus that shoulder leading, okay? So that left arm is that hinge in the middle. It's hinging here. It's keeping your weight over that right leg. As you finish, that shoulder behind the hand versus kind of that outward position. Chase over the board like a glider. Strong block. Just like them, I don't try to teach a reverse. Kids that struggle with reverse, we have some drills and I'll show them to you later. But if you're turning and blocking just right, it should bring you back in. And we're always, as shot putters, trying to make our little ring a little bit bigger. Coach, why can't we throw in the discus ring? Because there's no toe board. You have a lot more space. Yeah, for the release. My release drills, this is the first one is kind of the only one I really like to kind of work that around. I call it backhand punch. You're gonna fight, you're gonna backhand him with your left hand, and then you're gonna punch him with your right hand. I like to give him a target so you can kind of see there's a pole in there. Trying to reach out and then punch the person through with your right hand. At the toe board so they get used to being over the toe board. I have a girl that is, for some reason, terrified of the toe board and always throws like this, and it's driving me bonkers. This is a series I learned from the coach that taught me how to rotate. All it is really, if you think about when you first learned how to throw, that reverse C position, right? We're all trying to hit. That was a big thing when I was learning. This is a little bit modified. We're not getting a huge reverse C, but we are working as a glider, right? We're kind of getting to that position, and we're flinging ourselves forward. So it's just a series. The numbers just is how you change your feet. I use it to warm up the hand. I use it for specific strength early on. We're doing this with, for the men, 20 pounds. For the women, we'll use 16. And then just adding a little bit of rotation as you move through. So that first one, as you can see, is basically if you're at the toe board, it's similar to a pin and replace, right? Pin lock out, you guys done those right here? Similar to that, except we're getting a little bit of that arch. With all of these drills, these three, I'm trying to get the ball go up. Like I want to work, when I do short stuff like this, I try to work up because I know once we add movement, we're going to have forces going forward. But I want these kids to practice being able to push a heavy ball upward. And then two, just slight back with the right foot, usually toe to instep. Same thing, except you're going to lean and get a little bit of rotation, punch up through. And then the third one is just that stand throw position with their feet rotated. You can get a little bit more rotation out of the shoulders. Half stand. I love the handstand. I personally don't know anybody that uses it as much as I do. But what it reinforces for me is that bow and arrow position. All you're gonna be is your left arm's already gonna be out, your foot's gonna be turned. And now all I'm gonna do is just take my shot, I'm gonna drive my shoulder forward, and I'm gonna reach out. I like that it reinforces that line. It takes away a little bit of that kind of shoulder out because you're already here. Now all I have to do is kick my heel out and punch through the middle. Did it play already?
No. Wait for the nod.
So it's a very, very simple movement, but I find it really effective with both my gliders and my rotators to just learn how to be in a good line.
Do the kids hate it because it doesn't go far?
They do hate it, and it's because it doesn't go far. That's correct. A lot of the things, it was funny. I don't know if people were paying attention when they were talking about, there's a debate going on about if the standing throw was worth doing because you can't predict anything anyway. Everything's a drill except for the full throw. So half stand, stand, and you're just trying to make those movements better. This one I love because of that path that it creates. So that's my plug for the half stand. Does anybody use it? Oh, good. Excellent. I probably learned, no, I didn't. Elevated block leg. This one is just to really work kind of feeling that, oh, I've got to get up and over my left leg. My kids aren't the greatest at it, but you got a little bit of movement, a little bit of shift in it, but the idea is that you're feeling your leg up here, so like as you start to push, you actually have to feel yourself get up over that box. Again, both glide and rotation. I really like this drill.
One more time.
One more time. This is probably one of my favorite athletes, just because of how hard he works. All right, so this is my progression. This is how I progress almost every day. The numbers change, the weight changes. Early on in the year for this 1, 2, 3 halves and stands, I'll actually do left and right hands. I want to work my body both directions because we're so one directional. I like the balance. Having had 2 back surgeries from track, I find it really important to help balance out my body, my athlete's body, so they don't have that discrepancy. You're always going to have that discrepancy because you are going to be throwing obviously way more with one side. But just kind of my plug is my background in strength conditioning, try to balance both sides as well. Half stands are always non-reverse, really trying to focus on keeping that right foot through the ground, keeping contact with the ground. If they have to do 4 to 6 in a day, if they pull their foot up, they're doing another one. So I just want to reinforce that right foot staying through the ground. Again, that stand throw non-reverse, I've got a lot of being at kind of like, I'm a Division I, but we're not the big name Division I schools. So I get a lot of different body types and styles and experience. And so a lot of my kids probably spend the first year non-reversing because they have so many habits that we're trying to break with that non-reverse. I have a kid I'm working with now, he's 6'6", just long, great kid, works really hard, just had some really bad habits. And he's a really good discus thrower, and so we've been doing this non-reverse for, again, the last year, and he reversed the other day on accident. He's like, I'm so sorry, coach. I'm like, no, that's what I want. I want to see you naturally reverse because you're working that right foot through the ground so hard. Those ones you saw. We'll talk about the pre-turn in a second, drive spins and full throws. That's just my everyday progression. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
What do you, where is your weight distribution in the right versus the left in that half stand? What are you cueing them? I mean, maybe you don't use percentages, but where do you position that?
Yeah. I get a lot of kids that come in with the tap. Yeah. Okay. So I'm a little more 60-40. So because I know how much I want them to go up earlier than maybe they're used to, I'm a little more 60-40 so they can feel that left foot. And we'll talk about the flow and glide bits again here with the rotation because we're talking that glide finish. The kids that can be the quickest to get their left straight and get that hip moving up are going to have those better throws because of that it lessens the chance of that shift. So I am a little more heavy on the right because I want them going up quicker. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. So pre-turn. This is one as an athlete I hated, but they made me understand that movement a whole lot more. So basically what you're gonna do is to take out the start of the throw. So you pre-turn that left foot in the back, okay? So now they're here. All they have to do instead of opening and pushing is push down. Again, as an athlete, I hated it. As a coach, I love it because they start to understand this idea of, okay, I'm here, now I have to push my knee down. How am I gonna do that? I have to shift my weight. I have to go this way. Because from this position, the only thing you really wanna do is do this. You wanna get out of it. But if they can push themselves around it, they're gonna get used to being over that leg. They're gonna get used to being uncomfortable on that left leg. And it, when done right, will shoot them through their leg and they're like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to feel. So it just takes out that extra movement step to feel what you want them to feel.
Jill, when kids struggle with that and they do break at the hips, is that a strength thing, a technical thing, both? Which, do you battle it from both sides then, trying to make them stronger and technically better, or how do you
I honestly,
diagnose
I
that?
personally don't think it's a strength thing because, let me rephrase. I don't think it's a strength thing because depending on what level you're looking at, like, that's just a natural reaction to pressure is to go away from it, right? And so I don't think kids doing this is like that they're weak. I think it's because their body doesn't want to be in that uncomfortable position. That's my opinion on that. Is this really like your body will back up? What was that? Protection? Who was saying that? Is that you? A natural protection of your body being in uncomfortable positions. I think that's one of them, to me. And that's why we do a lot of those, get used to this position so that your body doesn't back away from it. It's like, oh, I've been there before.
Right.
So. These are my personal top 3 that I want to avoid as a rotator, okay? This large upward drive out of the back and then hopping off this left leg. One of the things that my coach taught me when I first learned was you want to jump to the middle in a sense of you're going to have to get off of your left foot and you're going to be in the air, but you're going to do that off a bent left leg, right? So you think about jumping, you're extending, right? But if you create the forces enough and you're starting to go to the middle, you shouldn't have to extend. In the discus, you extend because it's a bigger ring, but here you can't extend. You're creating this force that's going to take you across the ring. If you hop, now you're over the toe board. That left foot's rotating over the toe board. You're crashing hard and you're flying out the ring. So my thoughts: low right, down to the foot quick, keep it moving. That I was talking to one of my kids, and I think we talked about it earlier. But that movement of that inside of the foot, kind of turning to the middle, that's what helps keep it moving, right? That sweep, whether it's wide, whether it's however you want to take that right foot, whatever works for the athlete, but that movement is what is going to help keep it moving to the middle too, if you have your right posture. Throwing the left arm out of the back, kind of talked about that. But anything that takes that body weight away from that midline of the ring so that you're falling off balance. My biggest thing with my kids is that left arm. That's why I threw it in there, because they all want to get their movement going like this. Yes, that's easier. And I know you guys have all seen it. This is easier, but you're not going to get the same power to the middle. And then that over rotation, the right foot in the middle. Again, coming from like not really rotating, being a very good rotator, being a great discusser, I never got a lot of this. Like I never was taught that. And so I have a lot of kids that come in that learn kind of this big hop out of the back. And then they're trying to pre-turn that foot in the middle. And I'm really trying to break them of that. But it just, as you can see, as you go up and you hit this position, one, a lot of times your chest is going to be down. That heel's going to be up, so then your heel's going to crash. And then it's hard to keep moving through the middle. Feel free to email me. I am more willing to answer any questions. I know that this didn't get sent out, but I had a problem with how big the file was, so it will come out.
Yeah, Johnny said he's in
He'll
work,
send it
so
out.
trying to get everything online for
Yeah.
that.
But any questions that I maybe able to answer?
Thank you. That answered my question, was if the
Can't tell the stuff.
PowerPoints would be available.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know how it
Johnny's
works
working on
with.
it. All the PowerPoints with a ton of video and pictures on them are so big that the email systems don't want to handle them, so he's
Yeah.
working on getting them online.
I may just have to
I was just
copy
gonna
it.
ask that question.
$25
Checks directly to me.
If you email me, I'll add it on my Google Drive. I can just share it with you. So you can just email me directly if you want to.
How do you deal with coming out of the back, people wanting to like do this at other times, and then there's 4 or 5 minutes?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty lucky. I didn't coach high school first, so I don't get a ton of that. My response to anybody that starts to do that, because I do work with like multis, especially in the discus, is I have them static start. I take it completely away, and I'm like, okay, you need to learn how to do this. When we can do this movement without this, then we can add a little bit of this back. But as a, I just try to take it 100% away from them, so, yeah.
It's one of those unbreakable rules. You get one wrong, and that's it. Or get out. Nope.
Oh, yeah. There's another drill I actually like to use. Not necessarily for that reason, but I think it could help. Be careful, because I did get hurt doing this drill with one of my athletes, but you're gonna be my demonstrator. So if he's throwing, okay, and he's winding, and I want them to get, nope, you were going right, nope, that way. And he starts to wind, I'm actually gonna push him as they go.
Just to get me loaded?
Just to get you over that. But if they start winding too much, it'd be a great way to be like, no, you've got to get going. Just giving them that little bit of push so that they actually feel going out to that left side. Like, stop winding. Anything else on that? No? All right.
All right, let's give Jill a big round of applause. That was
You back in a second?
awesome. Yeah, she comes back in at what? 2:30?
Is it 2:30 or
I think it's 2:30. What's my sheet say, Katie? 2:30, yeah. With a glide shot. So again, all our clinicians are here. Jill flies out. She's going to track me to head to tomorrow, right? So she flies out tonight, right after she's done speaking almost, and heads back to Utah then. So if you have really specific questions on the linear style that Jill is incorporating, please make sure you ask them today, because she won't be back tomorrow. Ross, I called you Ross. Sorry about that. What a huge insult. TJ and Sarah, I'll be back tomorrow. Don't tell him I said that, because his head's going to get this big.
I don't know how to take that.
Yeah. So, open forum here. If you want to ask some questions, come on up. Need to take a break, get something to eat. Whatever you need to do, we'll be back here at 2:30 with Jill again.